Today's guest is one of the top writers in the music industry. If you've heard of Morgan Wallen, Jelly Roll, and many other modern country artists, then you've probably heard his work. Let's jump in. Welcome, guys, to a special episode of Benny's Booth with the incomparable Daniel Ross. Daniel, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, and I wanted to dedicate this episode to Dave Pensato and his co-host on Pensato's Place, Herb Trawick, who recently passed away. Rest in peace. These guys were very huge in the democratization of a music education. And that's not a political word. Democratization just means to make accessible. So these guys, through their show, made accessible some of the top talent in the music industry, mostly engineers, but some huge producers and writers and other professionals in the music production process. And so that's inspired me greatly. I benefited greatly from it, just like I have benefited from my friendship with you, Daniel, because you are so generous with your information and you're at the top of your game. You're one of Nashville's top writers and producers. So, man, it's an honor to get to talk to you.
Oh man, yeah, I'm grateful to be here, dude. I've benefited greatly from our friendship, dude. Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
So, how did you get here, man? Like, how did you get into writing? How'd you end up in town and then being one of the biggest guys in town?
Yeah. So my first experience with Nashville was with a rock band back in the day. And we came here to sign a record deal. And then I didn't come back for probably 9 years or something, maybe 8 years. I can't remember. But that was kind of my first trip to Nashville. And then one of my friends, who was in another rock band, which is kind of what I was doing in my hometown. I was playing in bands on the weekends and mostly like pop punk, very emo. And
I would never have guessed that.
Really? Or
yeah,
what? Oh,
yeah,
wow,
I'm serious.
That's funny because everybody that knew me before I was in Nashville, they're like, "You're doing country music?" You know, it's like a big, massive shift. Like my sister's like, "What are you doing, dude?" You know, she's always like joking about it, especially if I write a really country song. She's always talking junk to me about it. But yeah, no, I did the rock band thing for a long time. That was my first sort of introduction to production as well, because we'd go in the studio and I would just kind of ask questions, you know, just very basic ones like, how are you getting the acoustic guitar to sound so good or whatever? And so I kind of took some of that, and then I had a laptop in college. And this whole thing, I kind of went to college for a year. I failed out because my band was touring on the weekends and I wanted to be in a band and, you know, did that whole thing for a little while. And while I was doing that, I was working in GarageBand and just kind of doing demos, you know, but these were like not good demos, you know. It was me. I had no idea what I was doing. One of my buddies, Jason Melvin, had gone to the recording program at the college that I was at. And he kind of showed me the very, very basics of things. He was a lot better than I was. And then I had another buddy named John Luke, who ended up moving here as well, who had got Logic, I think. And so I was kind of picking up different pieces of things along the way. And then I think it was my senior year, or no, it was maybe my junior year of college. One of my friends, Brandon Day, had come to Nashville and got a publishing deal. And I had no idea. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you could, like, that was a job, you know. I kind of thought that was something that went along with record deals. And he called me and he was like, "Hey, man, here's what I'm doing. And I think you could do this." And he was like, "Why don't you come up to Nashville for a weekend and we'll write?" And so I started making trips up here to visit him. And this is right around the time I think Florida Georgia Line was big, like kind of just exploding on the scene. And then I think Dan and Shay and And then like Jason Aldean was obviously huge in a couple of them. But one thing that, I had kind of strayed away from with country music is I was more of a rock guy. But those kind of groups, particularly Florida Georgia Line and Jason Aldean and Brantley Gilbert and stuff like that, I was like, oh, there's like sick guitar parts in this. And so I kind of started getting a little more into it. And so that kind of was an easy segue for me to start building some basic productions, track-wise, and writing songs that kind of were at least had some kind of thread to what I was already doing in the rock bands. And so as I was kind of doing my thing, I started making the trips here, and then I would also record other bands and projects on the side. For a little while, I had an internship in Nashville at a studio, and I was just kind of trying to do anything I could to kind of figure out how to make music part of my daily life. And like I remember, like I was my poor wife, I would like have these bands come up to our apartment in college and kind of camp out there for a couple days, and we'd just record in my apartment. And so I was like putting it together like that, and so then I was taking some of those skills that I had built and moving that into my trips to Nashville. And when I got here, I was kind of like, I remember my first trip, I realized like, okay, so the way basically sessions go is that there's somebody who's doing recording or track or a producer, and then there's, a couple other people in the room, and even writing sessions, I'd never even heard of that. And so I kind of started to do that periodically when I would make my trips here. And then I had got into this first publishing situation with a guy, and part of it was really cool. I mean, again, I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, you can write songs for a living. This is crazy. And so I was thankful to have any kind of foot in the door, and this kind of gave me a foot in the door. So then basically he offered me kind of this half publishing, half I worked for his t-shirt company situation, which again, at the time, I think I was just like, oh, that sounds cool. And me and my wife got married in college, and we were, didn't really have any set plans for after. Kind of felt like an opportunity, so we prayed about it, talked about it, and we're like, let's do it. So we moved to Nashville, like the day after I graduated college. It took me like 6 years or something because I, stopped going to my classes because I wanted to play music. And
what was your degree in?
My degree was in communications or public relations, and then I had a minor in hospitality and tourism. But it was basically like because I failed out my freshman year doing the touring thing, and then when I went back to college, I was like, what's the fastest degree I can get? But it ended up being awesome. Like I had great professors and met some great friends doing that. And actually, my senior year, they kind of partnered with my recording studio and did like a marketing project for it and all these kind of things. So there was kind of ways
really cool.
that I was just trying to incorporate it however I could. But then, when I got to Nashville, I was just hustling, and I was like doing 2 a days. My wife worked at a coffee shop in the morning, and then I think Forever 21 at night, and then I would work at this t-shirt company in the morning, and then do writing sessions in the afternoon to the evening, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like we hardly ever saw each other the first probably year and a half or 2 years. And then after those sessions too, I would be going kind of out to bars trying to meet whoever. And then I met a guy named Jordan Schmidt, who had just got signed to a publishing company called Tree Vibes Music, which was Florida Georgia Line's company. And his brother was kind of running the ship at that point. And so we kind of hung out that night, and we went back to his studio, and then connected me with his brother. And the next day or the day after, I went to like this Sony crawfish broil that they do every year, and hung with his brother Dane. And then he sort of started inviting me to things, and they would have kind of parties at his studio. There was, I mean, all kinds of people that are now doing big things in the industry were there, and they would do that pretty much every weekend. And then I would start like playing poker with Dane and his buddies, and at the end of those poker nights, you know, someone would go, oh, like, play some new songs, you know, and we just kind of pass the aux around. And so I played a demo, and Dane really liked it. And then we kind of started the conversation about publishing. I was in this other kind of thing. I had never signed a contract with this other guy. And again, all of this was new to me. I had no idea what was standard, what was fair, and all these kind of things. And so basically, he started kind of getting involved. Dane did with my sort of where I was at in my career at that point. And I ended up kind of trying to move in the direction of wanting to be with that company. And I got the opportunity to go out on the road. I remember one week, and I think this was probably 2017, maybe it was 2018. But True Vibes had a rider bus that they would send out on the road with Florida Georgia Line. And I was certainly, you know, probably not, I probably went out too early, but basically what happened was a guy named Mark Holman was supposed to go out on the road and run track, because what they would do is they had two lounges in the bus. They had a front lounge, and there would be like a track person or a producer, and then two other riders, and then they would have another one in the back, and then BK or Tyler would ride in the front, and then the other one would ride in the back, and they'd have two groups going. And they did that every day from 11 to 3. And so one weekend, Mark Holman was supposed to go out, and his wife had a baby like really early or something, and they needed somebody day of. And so Dane called me and was like, hey, would you want to go out and ride with Florida Georgia Line? And I was like, yes, I would.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I went out, and what's funny is like I didn't even have a laptop. Like I brought my whole computer out there. Like I remember, and I didn't even know, like I didn't know that wasn't like standard. I had no context for this. And I remember Tyler walked on the bus, and he's like, man, you brought your whole computer out here, you know? And I just was like, oh no. Like I watched Jordan walk in with his laptop, and but it went great. And then they were kind of like, well, what's up with your publishing? And so we kind of started that conversation. I ended up partnering with them and Big Machine on a joint venture. And I think that was 2018. And around that time, that's like kind of how I met guys like Hardy, and Morgan Wallen was opening up for them. So I just kind of naturally met those guys, and that was kind of honestly my way into figuring out how to do it, and, you know, kind of seeing where a standard or a bar was for, you know, quality, and where I needed to be at, and realizing how far I had to go. So yeah, I guess that's sort of a bird's eye view of, you know, my first couple of years, and like how I even got involved in publishing and that kind of thing.
Dude, it's crazy how many stories I've heard from friends about how they're homies with someone who's further along than they are, and then just inevitably that person can't make it to a session, and so they're, you know, my friend will step in, and then they're catapulted from there into a big opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's where it's like, you know, especially now, like I have a lot of young writer friends that'll say like, I feel like I can't get any traction, or I can't figure it out. And I'm asking them about, you know, who are you writing with? And then they're telling me like, why? I'm not really writing because the people I'm writing with, like, I don't feel like are very good and all these things. And I'm just like, but you don't know who they're going to be in like 3 years, or what opportunities they're going to get. And I feel like, you know, one thing that I tried really hard to do is I just took every opportunity, you know, and, you know, obviously there's a threshold for that, you know, obviously don't write with somebody that you hate writing with, but Well, actually, maybe you should. I don't know. I think that like the big thing is at first you kind of just got to say yes, and even if it's not ideal, because I think for one of the things that happened to me early on is I would kind of do some similar complaining and I was just like kind of doing this number of like, oh, well, if I could just get in with this person, or if I could just do this, that'd be great. But really what I was saying is like, I'm expecting them to write the song for me, or I'm expecting them to make it great, instead of going, I need to be great, and no matter what session I have, I need to be the one that's providing, the tools and the skills needed to make what we're doing great. And I feel like I'm round robbing all that just to say, like, I think that's why some of those opportunities happen for me, is because I just said yes, and I was like down to hang, and I was going out, and I don't even really party that much, but it's like I would go and have a couple beers and kind of chum it up with whoever was doing anything, and I'm just like, let's get a session, whatever, let's figure it out. And I was probably that annoying guy at first, but I feel like there's so many stories of things like that just ended up being cool because I was willing to do it and willing to do the work, I think.
To backtrack a little bit, you're talking about how you were writing early on. You must have been pretty good at it right away if you're doing all these co-writes and working with different people.
No, I wasn't. I was okay.
Okay.
I mean, well, you gotta have context, right? Like now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like what was I thinking? But I mean, I had some like basic skill set, I guess, but it was very, very basic. I think there was a sort of intersection. I think this is for everybody, but I think there was kind of like maybe things I didn't know skill wise that I was developing, when I was growing up singing or playing in worship bands or playing in rock bands or, playing in cover bands or whatever, that helped. But man, I mean, I remember my first night in Nashville. We went to a writers round, which I had never seen before either, at Belcourt Taps. And it was, I think it was Mark Beeson, Justin Richards, Andy Albert, and Emily Wise band. And first of all, like all their songs were just way better than mine. And then I remember the dude who wrote I Hope You Dance, like wandered in he was walking his dog and wandered in, and Mark was like, I got a friend here who's going to play a song, and he gets up and plays I Hope You Dance. And I was like, what am I doing here?
That's so cool, man.
Just like
that's crazy.
But I literally thought like, I think that early on what happened is that I realized, okay, I'm not where I need to be. Mm-hmm. And so I think that was kind of always my thing is how can I go into this session and learn and get a little bit better and just be 1% better tomorrow than I was today. So I mean, I would say, I don't think I was very good. And I don't even think I thought I was very good, to be honest with you. I think I've always had that mindset of like, what can I improve on? How can I, and not even in a necessarily self-deprecating way, although sometimes I am self-deprecating, but I think more in terms of just like, I love learning and I love growing. And, I think you kind of have to fall in love with doing the work part of it. If you don't love that, I don't think it's for you, that's probably being great at anything though. I think if you fall in love with the work part of it, and the grind of, oh, like I just figured this thing out that I've been trying to figure out for 6 months or whatever, I think that's maybe just craft in general. But I think that's probably what happened is I think I wasn't that good. And then I just was like, okay, what do I need to do to get better? And I would just take little nuggets of things from sessions. And, we were talking about YouTube earlier, just like the school of YouTube, and just like whatever they had there for me. And some of it was bad advice, some of it was good advice, but it, helped me at least grow and feel like I was growing at least at the time. So, but yeah, I don't think I was very good when I first started.
And when these guys like, the writer of I Hope You Dance or whatever, like when you would hear them, play those songs or what was going through your mind? Is it, I need to become that good, or like, I want to beat that guy, or like, what's the kind of mindset when you were younger?
Yeah, the first thing is just that I was floored at how good the songs were, especially when you hear them in that context, because it's so stripped back. And like that was one of the first times that it was like a song. Like I think we sang that at our graduation in high school, and like I remember my Aunt Laura, she loved that song. So it's like one of the first times that a song that I grew up with that was sort of formative in my life, I got to see the person who really created it, you know. And I think just that experience made me realize, you know, how powerful a song can be. And kind of, so the first thing was, I think I was just sort of like, whoa, you know, because it's not like, you know, I think we all know logically that people write the songs, but I think when you put a face to the writer and you're like, that's just a dude who wrote, you know, who just like writes songs, you know. And I think just that whole thought, to me, it just, I guess the role of a songwriter sort of expanded to me. Because I think when I was growing up, I thought, oh, the band does it, or the artist does it, or the producer, you know. So I think that was the first thing. And then I think, you know, that was one of the last, I think that might have been the last song played. I don't know who will want to follow that. But I think that whole time, I mean, there was several songs in there that blew me away. Like Andy had a song for Blake called She's Got Away with Words or something like that. It was also like just an insanely well-written song. And I think, you know, Nashville really tries to uphold the craft. And I think, you know, the first thing was that I was just sort of blown away by how good the songs were. And then, you know, then I kind of got to like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, you know, and sort of those like, wow, I've got a long way to go. But I do think that like, that's an important piece of growing, is realizing, you know, I think sometimes we can be blind to sort of the weaknesses that we have. And we're sort of afraid to go there even. I think we sort of try to find things, in, you know, in our lives and in music particularly, that we'll try to avoid them. You know, we kind of get these limps where like we'll just sort of, maybe we're not as strong, particularly in songwriting, on melody. So then we'll compensate in another way for it. And really we needed to just go back and be like, all right, I got to kind of figure this out, you know, and study other songs. And so I think, you know, it made me just kind of go, okay, like here's my weaknesses and they're all exposed and we're in this great community of songwriters, and how can I, again, just made me want to dig deeper and try and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Nashville has a way of being a mirror to you and kind of, well, exposing you. Because I thought I was a pretty good guitar player.
Yeah.
And then I move here and I go, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I discovered chicken picking, because I didn't grow up listening to country, I go, country guys shred? Like, I didn't even know, you know, because I was a metal guy, you know, so.
For sure.
That was just nuts. So, and then like you said, the songs, you go to Belcourt Taps or whatever and hear a bunch of names performing that you've never heard of. And then every single song sounds like a hit, you know? So yeah,
it's crazy.
Very humbling and inspiring at the same time. But like for myself, when I got here, it's like, well, this is where I want to be. Yeah. This is what I didn't get in my hometown, because there's no music industry in my hometown, you know? So
where are you from again?
Palm Springs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of on the map now because Coachella Fest happens in that area.
Sure,
yeah. And then it's just like, if you're a golfer or something, tons of golf courses and stuff. And that's actually how my wife's dad ended up there in her family. He was a professional golfer, actually. Wow. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, no music industry. Yeah. So, you know, you're kind of, if you're decent at whatever you do there, you kind of are the top dog. Yeah. You know, I'm not saying I was, you know, but, you know, that's how you kind of feel when there's not a lot of competition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I bet that was, I remember the first time I went to a studio session and, you know, you watch those guys play a song that they just heard 10 seconds ago. and you're like, wow, first take's pretty much it. I mean, it's not, but you're just like, that first take was better than anything that I would have done. Yeah. It's sort of, yeah, it's just that thing of like realizing the craft goes deeper, and I think I was the same way as you in that I didn't give country music the respect that it deserved. And I think that was just, probably because I wasn't musically inclined enough to know, and I think you're a product of how, where you were raised and the context that you have there, but man, these guys here are it's just another level, and it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It was like maybe the second week I was here. I moved here because Brett Manning offered me a job,
Okay.
and like a lot went into making that decision. But I was like, man, this is the right time in life. If I'm going to work under like one of the vocal coaching goats, I got to take it.
Yeah,
I got to take it while
sure.
it makes sense. And so
Had you been taking lessons with him before, or how did that go?
yeah, I took a lot of lessons with him
Okay.
and some of his other coaches. And then I've always been a teacher at heart, just wanting to share what I've learned. So I knew that he had a coaching program. So I'd gone through that. But after I finished it, I was in Nashville for it, but then I moved back.
Okay.
And during that time, I was kind of young and really introverted. So I didn't go out much.
Okay.
Like when I lived in Nashville the very first time. But when I came back again, I got to kind of meet his network of people. And so I was at this engineer's place who's producing this crazy metal record. And there's this dude who looked like a bum. His name was Sharpie. And I can't remember where Sharpie was from, but Malcolm Springer, the engineer, he's like, Sharpie, like throw down on this real quick. And Sharpie like picks up a Les Paul and he just like does the craziest solo I've ever seen, man. And I was like, I'm not even close to that level, man. That was like my humbling moment, happened right away.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy. It will certainly humble you. That's for sure.
And what were your first kind of dreams when you were into music? Was it being the rock star on stage, or what was the thing?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think when I was younger, yeah, I think, there was sort of that big pop punk movement, I guess, or emo movement, when I was growing up, where the Warped Tour thing was happening. And so I don't even know that I even thought that much about it, but I definitely was like, we got to do this. Me and my best friend Zane growing up, he was a drummer. And like, there was not a lot of good musicians, in my hometown. And yeah, we would just go out in the garage and practice, and then we kind of would just find people we thought would look good for a band and try and teach them instruments, and just like try and figure it out. So I think probably in the back of my head, I was like, oh yeah, I got to do that. And I think as it went along, it shifts to like, when I just want to have good songs, or I want songs that people will sing to, and then you do the live thing for a while, and you kind of go like, oh, that's really cool, the connection piece there, and what that can do, and so I don't even know if I necessarily really thought about it that much. I think I just was like kind of moved by that sort of scene, and just went like, man, I really want to try to do this, So, I don't know. I think that was kind of it. I don't think it was super thought out,
That's interesting, man. So in that sense, then you didn't have to pivot so much, it's like I'm abandoning this dream to pursue this other dream.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, I think it did shift after a while to, I don't want to tour anymore. I want to be like a recording engineer, or a producer. And so that did happen. And I don't even know if I could pinpoint why that happened. I just was more drawn to the other side of things. So when that happened, I kind of thought that's what I would do. I would record and produce people's bands. And and then it's like, man plans his ways, the Lord directs his steps. Is like, okay, I thought I was going to do this, and then my friend calls me and is like, I think you could write country music. And I'm like, I don't know, and then here I am. So it's really cool how it, like you can kind of look back and see the way that it was weaved, but you can't really see it on the other side of it. It's sort of just like, I don't know. I'm passionate about this. I like this. I want to do this. And then you're either going to do that or it's going to be redirected, So I feel like I try to hold everything I do with an open hand now, even on sessions and stuff. I mean, I have people that are my publishers and stuff that are booking and planning things, but a lot of times I'm going into it going like, I don't know, we'll see, and I feel like you just kind of got to trust the process of it. And that's always served me well, at least I feel like. So,
yeah. Well, when I talk about rock stars, man, that perspective shifted for me so quickly when I found out about the components involved in producing the music that I love. And to me, the rock stars, like, big respect for the artists always, but the rock stars are people like you, man. It's the writers and the producers and the engineers, because I have seen how crucial they are to something coming out and sounding like a hit. And without them, the artist doesn't have all the skills necessary to put out something that becomes amazing. So it's really cool, I think, to hear the story behind a song, to hear sometimes the artist had no involvement in writing the hit. So maybe we start there or go there. How does that typically happen for some of these big writes that you've had, like the Morgan Wallen writes, the Jelly Roll, the Nate Smith, whatever? Are you writing with them in mind? Are you co-writing with them, or what's
Yeah, the first ones with Morgan, I'll start there. Like I said, he was opening up for Florida Georgia Line. And honestly, he was just like, occasionally he would ride the rider bus down with us. And the first song I ever had with him was a song called Had Me by Halftime. And there was kind of a couple groups of guys, and we were all in the back lounge of the bus on the way down to wherever we were going. I don't remember where we were going, but and we wrote, I mean, that was like, my buddy James McNair had the title, and we wrote it in 45 minutes. Then I got his vocal. He hadn't had, or maybe he just had one hit, I don't know, maybe he hadn't had any hits yet. And then we wrote one right after it that actually just got recorded as well. But I mean, those were like, he was figuring it out. He was kind of, I think he had just started to pick up some steam, in terms of impact as an artist. And so I think, I remember him saying he wanted to write a song for like the Vols, for this college tour that he was going to go do. And then it was like, James had the title and everyone was like, yeah, let's do that. And so yeah, I think those ones were kind of early on. And then, I've written some other ones for him as well with him. And, with him, particularly, he's got a strong sense of who he is even back then. It wasn't like he's trying to figure out who he should be as an artist. It was always like, he is who he is, and you're kind of, I don't know, really with him, you don't even have to ask, like, would you say this, would you not? He'd just be like, nah, that's not it. He's very just like straightforward, or he'll be like, yeah, that's dope or whatever. And he's also a good writer too, so he's also throwing out lines. On that song in particular, this was a young Hardy, but Hardy was on that song as well as Josh Miller. And all these guys are like legends now, great songwriters. And, so it's like pretty much every line that was thrown out was like pretty good from the get-go. Mm-hmm. But even back then, I mean, all these guys were young. I don't think maybe Josh had a hit. But I think he might have been the only one. Mm-hmm. But, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, like I was in with some hitters, like easy to get a good song, especially when there's 5 of you as well. You know, sometimes that can be complicated, but we were all buddies. And but I feel like, you know, sometimes in a session, the artist is looking to you to tell them who they are, and you're like, no, that's not the way this works. Like, I'm looking to you for you to tell me who you are, and then we can go from there. I mean, you know, I shouldn't make a hard rule for that. Like, sometimes you're helping the artist figure it out, but I do think that the strongest artists that I've ever worked with know who they are, and they lean into it, for better or for worse. And I always think art sounds better that way too, you know. I think even for myself as a producer or songwriter, I think, you know, I used to think, you know, I didn't like parts of the things that I was drawn to, and later on, that's kind of, I feel like, what made me unique, I guess, in some ways. And I think I was just insecure about it. And like, I remember one time I went to one of my publishers, Mike Molinar at Big Machine, and I was frustrated because I couldn't get any like big songs off the ground, and I was just like, do I need to like try and be more like this, or try and write songs more like this, or whatever? And he's like, I signed you to do what you do. And he's like, I want you to do that. And that was really good for me to hear at that point. So I feel like, you know, with someone like Morgan, I think that's implicit, because I don't think he knows how to be anybody else, you know. And I think, you know, even from when I'm writing not with him and I want to send a song to him, I know the character that I'm writing to, you know. It's like, there, you know, and that informs all the decisions you make, you know, even like, you know, and it's not always a hard and fast rule on topically things, but I just sort of feel like now at this point, and obviously now he's huge, but and he has a massive body of work for you to kind of look at now and have perspective. But, you know, I think even down to like the way the chords sound, and how he's such a big fan of hip hop, you know, and how he's kind of married those two things with country music and hip hop. And so you kind of like keep that in the back of your head, you know, as you're gearing something. But I will say that, like, I have never gone into a room, at least starting out, with going like, oh, I'm definitely sending this to Morgan Wallen when we're done. You know, I think it's more like you write the best idea in the room, and then you go, okay, who does this feel right for? And then you maybe send that, especially when it's an outside thing. I just haven't had as much success with like, oh, I'm all right for this person, you know, this person today. I think it's more about the kind of chemistry of the room that you're in, because it changes even if one person, you know, is in and out. You know, and like the other ones that you mentioned, like Nate Smith, you know, with him, it was a little bit different, because the first song I ever had with him, I think it was a song called All Right, All Right, All Right. And that was like one that I had written a couple years before. And I remember I saw him play a writer's round, and then my buddy Joel had produced some stuff for him, and I had heard his voice, and I was like, great voice. You know, I kind of wanted to just be a part of it because I loved his voice. And Joel was like, well, why don't we have some beers at my place and you guys can come hang? So I went over to his house, and we hung out, and he's playing me some of the songs that he had written, and I think he maybe had just signed with Sony or something. And I was just kind of like, man, you ever thought about outside songs, like just out of curiosity? And he was like, I mean, you know, I would. I'm not against it. And I was like, can I play you a couple? So
at the hang, you said that?
Yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah, I used to be more embarrassed about like sending artists songs. Now I'm like, dude, if you tell me to send you songs, I'm going to send you songs. And like, because the thing is like, it feels cringy and wrong and whatever until you send them one that's sick. And then you're like, or that they love. And then they're, you know, even if it might've been annoying to them before, when they get one that's the right one, then you're like, you know, you're in business at that point. And I feel like it makes it kind of worth all of the other cringy, I got to send this song, I don't know how they're going to, you know, I'm kind of over that now just because I've had a couple now that have landed and you're like, I'm really glad I did that. You know, so with him, it's like, we're sitting there listening to his other songs. I'm like, why not show him some of mine, see if he likes one of them? And he loved it, came in the next day or a couple days later and put a vocal on it. Then they recorded it. And so, yeah, with that one, actually, the funny story about that song is I wrote it with another artist like 2 years before that I had produced his project, a guy named Joey Hendricks, who was on Sony at the time. And I was like super close with him during that period of time. And when we wrote it, I was always like, man, we should have done this song. But he didn't feel like it was right for his record, which I totally respect. But I was always sort of like, man, I wish we would have done that song. And then it was just, you know, sitting there with Nate, I was thinking, oh, like this could be a cool fit, you know. And it landed there. So I feel like it kind of it can go a lot of different ways, you know. And I think, you know, that kind of situation, again, it's another one of these circumstances that, like, I don't know how I ended up there, really. Like, maybe you could try to backtrack and look at it and, you know, but I think, again, just right place, right time. And, you know, same thing with one that I just recently had with a guy named Tucker Wetmore. It's like that we just wrote it in December, and we knew it was a kind of a beach song. It's called Sunburn, and we knew that he was down at the beach, and I don't remember who sent it to him, maybe Jackson or somebody, I don't know. Somebody sent it to him, and I recently was talking to him about it, and he said he got the song and he was like laying on his boat, and he said first chorus came through and he's like, I'm cutting the song. You know, it's like we happened to catch him right after he had this trip, and it's like, again, right place, right time. We wrote it in December. It's not like we were writing it in the summer. You know, it's sort of, it's all backwards. It's like you just kind of have to write what's in the room, I think, that day, and then just kind of let it go from there. So I feel like it can kind of go a bunch of different ways, and it's different if I'm like producing a project or I'm involved in it more heavily. You know, at that point, there's other conversations to be had with the artist, and that you probably have already had them by that point. But I think, you know, then you're maybe thinking a little bit through it a little bit more about, oh, what is the record missing? What could we use today? You know, because you want to give the co-writers as much information as possible. So I feel like it can kind of go a bunch of different ways. That might have been a long-winded way.
No, man, that's, again, as you're talking, I'm like, can't believe he's just telling me this right now, man, you know, because when you don't know anything, when you're completely ignorant to, you know, how it works,
yeah,
you might chase a lot of unfruitful paths.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, so.
And I certainly did. So, yeah.
What was one of them? Or maybe some mistakes you made where you're like, won't do that again.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one, I won't name the artists, but there was a couple one in particular that I believed in, that I thought, at least I believed in their voice and what they were doing. But there was sort of this rumor going around town that they weren't going to go to radio with them. And so I backed off writing with them. And at that point in time, like some context for that is, I was basically like, I needed to have a song go to the radio that year, or I was probably going to lose my publishing deal. That's just where I was. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, but even still, I'm like the next year they went to radio and they just exploded. Massive artists. Like, And I was like, dang, I was in that camp and now I'm not, you know, and it's come back around now, but it took probably 6 years, you know, 5 years. But I'll just like, I don't do that anymore. If I believe in it now, like really believe in it, the whole thing, then I'm going hard on the project and I'm going to bet on it. And I think, you know, I think you have to trust your gut with some of those things. And also my gut's been wrong before too, you know. Conversely, like I think I have went too hard on projects, you know, and it just didn't pan out. And then I spent, you know, 6 months writing mostly with an artist and nothing came of it. You know, so on both sides of it, I think there were lessons to be learned, you know, and some of that is, I have a great team at Big Machine. My point person over there, Michelle, is such a dog. She's just like so good at what she does and connecting me with good sessions and you know, making things happen for me. I think we're more on the same page now than we've ever been strategically about, you know, how to make sure that those things don't happen, that I'm not just pulling back because I'm hearing these swirling rumors. And, you know, I think it's tough because, you know, as you probably know, the primary way that we make money is through radio. And streaming is trying to catch up to that. They got a long way to go. But, you know, so I think there's a financial reality to the situation that it's like publisher is a business. And eventually, if they're not making any money, you know, that's not on them. Like they have to keep going too. You know, I think we can sort of get really our feelings hurt about situations like that. Like even when my publishers had the conversation with me of like, hey, this is kind of where we're at. Like we're in the hole on you financially and we got to have something go your way. And I think, you know, I think when you operate that made me afraid. And so it's like you operate out of the fear part of it. And so you're making decisions out of that. I just never want to do that anymore. I'm sort of like, yeah, now I'm like, what am I excited about? What seems interesting and cool and unique to me? And I just bet on that now. So I think maybe that's the lesson, is to not operate out of the fear part of it. And just to trust my gut a little bit more.
You shouted out Michelle.
Yeah.
She's up for some award right now, right? Was she nominated for something?
Yeah, Song Champion of the Year, I think is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a dog. She's so good. Like one of the hardest working publishers in town. Man, I think the job of a publisher is sort of always understated, I guess, is maybe the way I would say it. It's kind of like, you know, I think it's not like there's not maybe tons of upward mobility in that job, and there's not a lot of them. And I think that, you know, in my experience, sometimes publishers are just trying to clock in and clock out. And the ones that are like really good, you know, and I'm not saying, by the way, like have your boundaries, like totally respect that. But, you know, I'm also like, I have 2 kids and a wife and lots of other things I'm involved in outside of music. And, you know, I'm a little bit of a crazy person, but I'm still like sometimes like it'll be like I go into work, you know, in the morning after I work out and drop the kids off, go home for dinner, and then I go back to the studio. And sometimes that happens 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm there till 12 or 1 in the morning, and then my kids get up at 6, so I get up with them, take them to school, and we do it all again. And I'm not saying that publishers need to work the same hours, because it's different. But Michelle goes all the way. She's full service, and, you know, from talking me off ledges to somebody cancels, she's not waiting until the next morning to let me know. She's like, hey, this session canceled. What do you want to do? Here's what we could do. Here's some options. Or she's even proactive in things like, hey, I know we've talked about you wanting to work with this artist. What if we flew out to this show and went and hung with them backstage and tried to develop the rapport and things like that. And then she just like unashamedly pitches my songs everywhere. And I can't tell you how many people have been like, man, Michelle sings your praises, man, you know. And the other thing is that she just like has fought for me, you know, when the kind of it wasn't looking good, you know. I think she's stayed with me and believed in me and stuck by me. So I just can't say enough great things about her. I think she's one of the best publishers around these days. So I'm really lucky to have her on my team. For sure.
Amazing. Shout out Michelle,
Shout
man.
out Michelle.
One of my most embarrassing moments in town. It was a quick one, but I was like getting ready for work for the day. I got a phone call. I answered it because it was a 615 number.
Yeah.
And someone goes, hey, is this Benny? And I go, well, who the wants to know? And it was someone from Big Machine. And I was
nice.
like, oh,
nice.
No.
That's amazing. Wow.
And he goes, yeah, I got your number from Tim Lauer. And I go, oh, man. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, dude. Bad morning, man. Yeah. That's
well, I hate unsolicited calls so bad,
I know. It's
so.
fresh. And it feels like they're getting worse these days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I get 5 a day, you know, that are like, are you selling your house? I'm like, not at all.
No.
Like,
and the texts are getting better too, like the scam texts or whatever. So I'm like, do I know this person?
I know.
They're like, hey, Benny, just following up again. I'm like, I don't know you.
Yeah,
but
I know.
you got me for a second.
Yeah.
So even my voicemail, man, if you call me and like I don't pick up, it says, if you know me, text me. Do not leave a message. You know?
Really? That's funny.
I hate them.
You always pick up my call, so I never get to your voicemail.
Of course, man. Yeah, I'll stop what I'm doing, man. If you hit me up. But and you've done the same for me, man. So again, you're such a champion of upcoming talent. You're willing to like share your stuff. I'm really curious about what you said earlier because I think that's a huge paradigm shift. What you said about like someone's got to know who they are, and I can't tell you who you are. You kind of got to know. So how can someone extract that? You know, because a lot of people are afraid of choosing the wrong image or persona. They're like, what if that one's not my path to success? You know, so they just kind of get deer in the headlights. I don't want to commit to an image.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think even the thought of thinking things like, I don't want to commit to an image, or what if that's not my path to success, is the wrong thought. Mm. I think you have to, I mean, some of this is personal work too. I think it's like, man, what makes you excited? And by the way, not what are you excited when someone else does? What makes you excited? Because I think sometimes we do this thing where some new trendy sound is happening, and then artists will go like, oh, I want to do that. And it's like, why? They're already doing that. You know, I think, and not to say like we all take influence from different things, but I do think that I think the sitting there and being, you know, nervous about trying to make the wrong decision is getting in the way of you just going like, no, I love this, and trying it and mess it up. Like, it's okay, you know? That's also part of who you are, you know? And I think we're so afraid to make the wrong moves that sometimes it can be crippling. And it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, also, like, try writing it and try doing a sound, whatever, a sound that you like, and you don't have to put the song out. Like, just see what happens, you know? Like, you know, and I think, you know, like, you get it back and you're like, that wasn't good. But maybe you like, you know, oh, like, this has kind of a darker organic tone to it. I like that. Like, so then your next session you go, you know, I want to do this dark organic thing, but it wasn't quite right. You know, I think instead of letting it stop you from experimenting and trying and going with your natural passion, you know, and your natural excitement, you know, I think you just got to go for it and be okay with the failure part of it. You know, I feel like I've even just, I'm not an artist at all, but it's like even in production and in songwriting, you know, I remember like one of the first really massive sessions I ever had with a really big songwriter, and I'm just like, we go in there and I don't say anything for like 2 hours because I'm like, you know, this person has like 50 plus number ones, and I'm like, what am I going to tell him?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
who was it? Can you say?
yeah, I mean, it was Ashley Gorley.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I just feel like even, yeah, I don't know.
The goat of goats.
Yeah, he's great. But I just remember like first time we wrote, I'm like, what do I have to offer? And I didn't say anything for like literally probably 2 hours. It was me, him, and an artist I was working with. And I think the artist was kind of like, what are you doing, dude? You know? And then there was this one line he was working on, and I was like, oh, like, I think it should be this instead. And he's like, yeah, that's actually right. He's like, and all of a sudden I was like, what am I doing? And it's funny because I let the thought of screwing it up or the thought of not knowing how to say the right thing or do the right thing get in the way of me just being who I am. And like, even with him, it's like, nobody says the right line every time, even the best of the best of the best. I think your target can get, you know, more focused, and you can, over time, you know, I think you can dial that better. But I think it's like those thoughts of, well, what if I make the wrong decision, or what if this isn't my sound, or what if this and this and this? And it's just like, man, you're never going to do anything if you don't do anything, you know? And I think you have to be okay with not getting it right and not letting that also become part of your identity. It's like, just because you got it wrong, that doesn't mean you're always going to get it wrong, or that you're wrong, or that you shouldn't be an artist, or that you shouldn't be a writer. It's just like, it just wasn't right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think, you know, as people, we take those as like road signs, where we're like, or just like banners that we wear, where it's like, this felt really wrong, so that must mean that thing is wrong. And it's like, it's more nuanced than that, you know. It's you're always learning, and you're always refining, you know, the thing that you're working on, the thing that you're doing, and yourself. But I think you have to be willing to be yourself and, you know, live in the experience, and just kind of go like, this feels cool and interesting to me, and like, that's okay. The pieces don't quite fit yet, but that's okay. You don't have to see the whole thing right away. So I think that's what I would say is just like, everyone always says this in rooms. I always say like, dare to suck, you know, like, or whatever. I think it's kind of that deal. But also just like, realize that it's okay for you to be discovering, you know, who you're going to be and what you want to be as an artist, alongside discovering yourself, and kind of leading with, you know, the curiosity of what it could be, what it is, and letting that kind of take the wheel, I guess, in some ways.
Sure. One thing I'm curious of with Ashley, especially like his status in that that time in your life, Nashville has a reputation for not being hierarchical the way that, you know, LA could be or New York could be. So there is a hierarchy. There's people who are definitely ahead of you and above you or whatever. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, those people at the top don't treat the people underneath. They don't talk down to them. They don't big brother them per se. Mm-hmm. So what was Ashley like?
I think he was a guy that wanted to write a great song. I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think he goes in, it's about the work for him, for sure. Mm-hmm. All the great songwriters in town. I think you have to leave the ego stuff in some ways at the door, of like, in service of the song. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, I think there certainly are probably, you know, I probably could name some writers that are sort of gonna going to check you and kind of it can feel like an interview or like you're applying for a job in the co-write. And some people are just sort of like that, but really, really great writers, in my opinion, like the best of the best. They trust that the room is what it's supposed to be and everyone gets mutual respect. And now, having said that, had I not said anything that whole right, I'm not getting invited back. You know what I mean? And that's like warranted, you know, that's on me. Yeah. You know, so I think there's personal responsibility and also like vice versa. Like if I'm writing with young people and they're not bringing something into the room yet, it just might not be time for us to write, you know? Because at the end of the day, you know, it's like we're all there to serve the song and the artists. And, you know, I understand it now more than I maybe did coming into, you know, the town when I was just trying to get anybody to pay attention. It's like when I have kids and all these other things going on and production and demos and whatever, like I'm only writing a couple days a week, 2-3 days a week. So they got to be good. You know, it's not a personal, you know, attack on somebody when I'm like, I can't work with you anymore. It's just like, it's not working and that's okay. Somebody else will work for you, you know? I think, you know, that's always the thing that I'm impressed by with great songwriters is they go in and they're not second guessing, you know, like, should I say this? Should I not say this? They're just like, how can we make this song great? And when everybody's working together towards that goal, you know, you get really cool stuff, you know, and it's usually when the ego gets in the way that a lot like aligns, you settled on it, or it just, I don't know, it's someone thinks it's good and it's not good. It's when everybody's on the same page, usually, that you're like, yeah, this is dope, and it ends up being something. So, yeah, I think that's why he's had hits for so long. Among, you know, beyond the talent that he just possesses as a human, you know, I think he just has this way of trying to get everybody to be in on the song and figure it out. And as long as you're in there working and trying to get it right, I think, you know, he's going to respect that. So that's my experience with him.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, this is how people provide for their families and pay their bills and stuff. So in those rights too, you're all working, right? I mean, it's cool work, it's creative work, but these days when you're in a right, it's not a hang with the boys necessarily, right? In terms of, are you wasting time?
Yeah, I mean, part of it, the beginning of it is.
Sure.
But yes, we're not like, I am not trying to spend my day, the whole day, just drinking beers with dudes. Like, I would love to get a beer with you when we get this song done, you know? Or if this is your thing, I'll get a beer with you before we start this song, you know? But we're getting a song, you know? That's what we're there for. And, you know, the hardest one to navigate with that is when you do writer retreats, because it can just get so, like when they send us down to the beach or something, I'm like, we're going to be lucky if we get a song, you know? But I mean, I think like that's where it's like you have to kind of put your professional hat on and go like, no, like before we go do anything else, we're going to do this. It's hard too if you're running track too, because a lot of times, you know, you're down somewhere cool and you write a song and then everyone else goes to the beach and you're there like, man, was this snare sound right? And I got to tune this vocal and whatever else. So I think there's like, I think that you got to go into it knowing what you're there for. And like, but at this level, like everyone sort of respects the work and everyone's trying to like do something great. You know, I feel like the circle that I run in, you know, like everybody wants to get a great song, you know, and not just like, cause there is sort of this kind of, I think levels thing as you're growing as a songwriter. Like I think when you first start to figure it out or want to do it, you're just pumped maybe to write a song. You're like, and sometimes that tricks you into thinking it's a great song just because you finished a song. And then you're like, oh, like, let's get some cool rhymes in here. And opposites are a thing. Like if I do some wordplay here, and and so you have all these building blocks as you're developing your skill set, and then you get finally, I think, to a place where when you're at a real professional level, everybody's got those tools and the skill set. It's like, how can we really make this, a hit or a song that will be great for this artist for this moment or whatever the need is, and I think, because at the end of the day, like when you break it down, like there is art and a lot of other beautiful pieces to it as well, but I am not there for any other reason than to help this person have a big song. Like that's why an artist would bring me into a co-write, because otherwise, if you don't care about having a big song, you don't need me. Mm-hmm. Like maybe you do if we're like tight and we're, and I'm involved in the project as a producer and we're like really passionate about it. Like that's cool too. And I love and respect that. But like if nobody makes any money, then we can't keep doing it. Mm-hmm. There has to be, that's not to knock from the art side of things. That's just a practical reality. Like the artist has to have a career, and that's just what careers are built on. You have to have big songs to mm-hmm. have longevity in a career for the most part. Barring like, a Kings of Leon or something that like grinds it out for 15 years and then eventually has a hit. Like that happens too, but mm-hmm. that's just not the world that I'm involved in. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. And you can make it interesting and unique and cool and also sound like a hit. And I think that's maybe where the art comes into it as well. But I'm like, I have no shame. Like I want big hits, Yeah. Like I'm like, that sounds fun, Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if that's just like, I don't know. I think sometimes in the past I've been scared to come out and say like, no, that's what it is, but that's what the job is. Yeah. It's like, how can we help people have big songs that move people? Because even if they're super commercial and whatever, it's like that's what sets the tone for the culture, and that's what sets the tone for the genre. And mm-hmm. So I'm like, that's kind of particularly when we're talking about the hang part of things. I think like it's a hang unto this might help us get a good song, in some ways.
I like that.
Yeah.
Poetic.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So as a fan, I would be angry if I didn't ask this question. What was the write like for Something Country? Because that song makes me want to buy a 12 pack and just crack them all open. And, and I don't even do that,
Yeah. Honestly, dude, that was at a retreat at Tyler Hubbard's house from Florida Georgia Line. We were supposed to be writing, I think, I don't remember all the artists over there. I think there was a bunch of artists there. And I can't remember if we were trying to write or if we were aiming at Florida Georgia Line for some of it. But I know Morgan had some hits then, and he was there. And it was me, Morgan, Ernest, and Hardy. And I think we were playing basketball, like outside one of the rooms. Actually, I think it was a bus. Yeah, they had a bus outside that was one of the writers' rooms, and we were playing basketball. And then we go in, and Hardy grabs a beer, sits down, and is like, "I got a cold beer, yes I do," or whatever, something mm-hmm. like that. And then it was kind of like, "Well, what's that?" And honestly, like, man, that was like a 20-minute song.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we didn't take no time at all. I mean, like, I am not trying to be humble when I say this. Like, I probably didn't have much to do with that song. Like, it was just like they started rolling, and it was like boom, 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 boom. I might have had a couple things in there. I did the track for it, obviously. Mm-hmm. But that was one of those, like, something funny happened. You took that I got a cold beer, yes I do thing, and I got a redneck, yes I do, turn it into that. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like everyone's just throwing things out, and it's just like done. And then did the vocal, turned it in, didn't hear anything about it got a text that was going on the record, that kind of thing. And I felt really lucky to have that one. I love that song. It's become one of my favorite ones. That's the one that my sister always makes fun of me for because it's so redneck, But I love that song.
Yeah, that's what I love about it, man. And just the ripping, like rock nature of it too, So can you write a song like that? Well, I'm sure the answer is yes, but was that song written with an electric guitar with some distortion on it? Like, are you writing to a riff that has a vibe or?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
The riff was like maybe a little different. One thing that's interesting about that song though, is we talked about it's only one chord. Mm-hmm.
I don't think I had made that observation.
Yeah, there's no other chords. It's one.
Crazy.
So it's just, I mean, there's some suspensions and stuff, but it's really one chord. And so that was kind of, I don't remember how that conversation happened or if we even really talked about it that much. If it was just like, hey, it'd be sick if we tried this. And I think Hardy played the original riff. I think he's like a Rolodex of 90s rock, and sometimes he'll just come up with something that's like sick. And I think he had a riff, and I don't even know if it made the thing, but maybe it did. That was his riff. Yeah. So that was electric guitar. Mm-hmm. We were on a bus, so it was like a mobile rig, so it's a demo for sure. But I think he played that, and then, Morgan did his thing, and that was kind of it. I mean, it was so fast. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that, again, one of my favorites, man.
Oh,
That's
man.
just like,
Thanks.
if you want to have a good time, you're going to put on that song,
Yeah, thanks, dude. I'm lucky to be on that one, man.
So, question. You mentioned All Right, All Right, All Right.
Yeah.
And I know that you wrote Lies, Lies, Lies as well.
Yes,
so
yes.
Is that the secret?
Yeah. I guess you could say that. I mean, yeah, that's funny. I've never thought about that.
And they're totally different songs.
Yeah. Well, I think, I might be making this up, but I think back in the day, like, we didn't have bold, right? So I think then they used to just repeat words when they want to emphasize it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if like that's where that came from, but yeah, I mean, I think all right, we did that because of the Matthew McConaughey thing. Like, we literally thought that would be funny, and how can you make that cool? And then at one point, this was with the artist before Nate, but I think like they're trying to get Matthew McConaughey in the video of whatever. It was like you're thinking about what other things could happen with the song, or the potential of it. Lies was more of just like, one of my buddies, Chris Tompkins, had brought in the bones of the song. And that's just where he went with it. And it was like, I'll never forget the first time he played us kind of the bones of it. I mean, it was just like, I don't know, sick. And he's so musical. Tompkins is, I wrote that with Chris Tompkins, Jesse Joe, Dylan, and Josh Miller. But Tompkins, he's just a genius. Just one of my favorite people to be in the room with, just because he everything he does is so interesting musically, and I don't know, I just love him. He's such a interesting person, and kind of a wild personality. Really fun to hang with, and he's had so many hits, and they're all his hits are like really good songs. Sometimes. Yeah, I won't say that actually, but all his hits are really, really interesting and really cool. Mm-hmm. Like, I think he wrote Before He Cheats for Carrie Underwood, and then
I've heard of that one.
Then I think he won a Grammy or was nominated for a Grammy with another one of her songs, and then did a bunch of the Florida Georgia Line songs as like Jason Aldean stuff. Like, I think he wrote a Dierks Bentley's. I mean, and then he's on this tear right now, with Morgan, and he was on the one we did with Jelly Roll, and he's just a gifted guy, and so that one, I actually, it's funny, I've never thought that both those titles have the same word repeated, but maybe I need to start doing that more.
So for someone like yourself, man, you're just an expert at your craft, and you get to do it at the highest level. I think to myself with vocal coaching, it'll be my 10th year coaching here this year.
Oh, congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. And it's been so much fun, man, to get to do this job professionally under such a great mentor, and everything, and to help people, build their voices. But one of the things that is so cliche for me, it's still important. I think everyone has to be masters of their vocal range, but it can almost be cliche and kind of cheesy, like for someone to make their entire pursuit just high notes. I'm kind of over the high notes. They were exciting to me when I first, that's why I took lessons, high notes. And everyone's like first big thing is high notes. I'm with that. But there's so much more to the art of singing well than just how high can you squeal out a note, you know? So what's more inspiring to me is like originality, creativity, and phrasing, someone who can, use the different colors that their voice has to create something that is a piece of who they are, like they put their soul, bleed into their singing. What inspires you as a writer and producer these days?
That's a good question. It could be a number of things. I think really, this is kind of a not fair answer, I guess, but really interesting vocal tone inspires me. That's kind of, you can't teach that. That just is what it is, I like that because I think that goes a long way. Like, there are some artists who maybe aren't the best singers, but everything they sing, you want to hear it, And I'm sure, I am obviously not a vocal coach, although you're a great vocal coach.
Thank you.
And I've taken many wonderful, helpful lessons from you. But I think one of the thing, I think you can probably help develop your tone and make your pitch stronger, and those things certainly contribute to a good tone. But yeah, I think some of that's God-given. Like, some people just have a thing that just for whatever reason their chords are made up of that. I think that's the first thing that draws me to a new artist is it interesting? Does it draw me in? Does it kind of go with the kind of songs that they're writing? So that's the first thing. I think there is a weird thing that I don't even know how to describe this other than to sound real cliche when I say this, but some people just have that star thing. Like you meet them and you're like, yeah, kid's a star, like they just have this air about them that's just there, and I feel like I've seen that with a bunch of different people, coming up, and it always serves them in the long run too. I think when you can just kind of make a room go, like, they turn to you and you walk in, and I think, so I think, when I'm initially meeting somebody or trying to work with somebody or just here, I think those two things are sort of the onset inspiration. I think interesting details in songwriting also is really inspiring as well. So, not just like I love the Baby Crazy rhyme and the Problem Solve 'em and all that stuff, Whiskey Miss Me, all those are fine. But like when someone starts, going down like my buddy Jacob Hackworth, for instance, like he wrote this song for Morgan called Jack and Jill. And it's like such an interesting, crazy concept. And you're just like, man, I've never heard that perspective before. And it's just inspiring. It makes you want to go like write a song and figure it out. And it makes you want to dig deeper when you're writing on a regular basis too, and not just be like, let's settle for this because we're tired and we're tired of each other, or whatever. it's like it makes you want to be great when you hear something great. And so yeah, I think, you know, there are a couple other songs as well that come to mind that haven't been cut. Not mine either, other people's songs. And again, it's the same thing. It's like I can hear that person in the song. Not even necessarily as the character in the song, but I can just hear their perspective that's just sort of in there. And so that's inspiring to me too. And all those things, I guess, it's not like things that you plan on doing, you know. I think it just, but again, I think those things happen when you serve the craft and when you serve the song and not your ego. And like, let me say this too, like ego can be a really good thing. Like I want an artist to have some ego and to be confident, and I just mean like when there's a point when it gets in the way too, you know, of songwriting. And I think any of those are the first couple of things that when I think about times when I've been inspired, it's usually one of those things.
What's a song that you love that you wish you would have written?
I don't know why this one just popped into my head, but mine would be "You" by Blake Shelton.
Okay.
I think it might be a perfect song. You know, it's like you know, it sounds like this really sweet, beautiful song, and it is. Mm-hmm. And you listen to the whole song, and you get to the last. I think it's the bridge. It's like, I can't remember exactly how the lyrics go, but it's like, because at the beginning they're doing like all these sweet things like mine would be you, sun, you know, sun kiss shine, blah, blah, blah. And then at the last bridge or something, it's like, you know, what's your biggest regret or your biggest mistake? And it's like mine would be, you know, it's just this like really well, simple, crafted. The melody's big, and it just has like when songs do that thing where you've thought the whole song was this love song and then it turns out to be a heartbreak. It's just I can remember where I was the first time I heard it. So yeah, I think that would definitely be just way up there for me. I love that song. I also love Dirt by Florida Georgia Line. Again, just another, speaking of Chris Tompkins, he wrote that, I think, with Rodney Clawson, but just a freaking, in my opinion, a perfect song. It's just, make a song about dirt interesting, you know, and just feels unique and interesting. And then, you know, there's probably 7 or 8 Hardy songs I wish I wrote too, you know, but again, it's all the thing of like, I wish I wrote anything that feels unique and interesting and like I wouldn't have thought about it for the first time, you know. Just something that isn't, you know, people not trying to go to the well, you know. So I don't know. Those are a couple ones that come to mind, I guess.
Great songs. And do you listen to your own music after you're done with it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm doing the track, so.
Oh, yeah. So.
I listen to the melodyne of the vocal, you know. And sometimes, mm-hmm. When, particularly if you do the demo of the song, and then the song gets cut, there's this thing that we talk about a lot. It's called demo-itis, where you're so used to the demo that you maybe are disappointed with the cut. It doesn't really happen a lot anymore, but I feel like when a song first comes out, mm-hmm. if I haven't heard it, a lot of times I've heard it now before it comes out. Mm-hmm. Not all the time, but when a song first comes out, if I don't have the demo-itis thing, I will play it a lot, but it's usually like, because I'm trying to, you know, just contribute my fair share of streams. You know, when it's really good, I will listen to it because because I'm like, wow, this is where the producer took it. Or if I produced it, no, I won't listen to it a lot because I'll be going, should I have done this or should I have done that? I have to step away from it for a while, and then, maybe a few months later, I'm able to actually hear it for what it is, And I will say this, that that's why I think like mix is so important, because if a song's mixed really well and done really well and whatever else, I think that's actually when I know I'm listening to a great song, I guess I should say, is when I'm not picking it apart. Same thing with like acting. It's like when you just experience the emotion of the actor and not the acting of the actor, like that's a good actor, and I think songs are like that as well. My kids like to listen to my songs. So I usually give, especially on the way to school, I give my daughter a turn for a song, my son a turn for a song. By the way, I do this because otherwise, it'd be like Coco Melon or freaking Frozen the whole way, Or I guess now they're into that K-pop Demon Hunters thing. It's just like nonstop. But anyway, I give them one song each, and they usually ask for one. Sometimes I'll ask for one of mine or whatever.
That's so cool.
So that kind of stuff's really fun. My son always, whenever I have a song go to radio, he always goes like, "What number are we at this week, Dad?" That kind of thing.
That's sweet.
I think they're really especially when it first comes out. My wife is really good at celebrating the small things. So even a song coming out, it's easy to lose the perspective of like, somebody loved this song enough to bet on it to some degree, My wife's really good at keeping me there. So, I think I'm really good at picking it apart and being like, oh, I should have changed that line or whatever. And I think that's one of my favorite things about Kara, is just that she's just really good at that kind of encouragement, I guess. So I guess it's like, all my answers are always a mixed bag, I feel like I don't have any simple answers, but I think it kind of depends,
Because your relationship changes with music when you're doing it professionally.
For sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not, you almost want to capture how you listened to music when you were younger, right? It's like, what was it like when I just listened to this because it was amazing?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even know what it was doing to me, but it was doing something that I liked. And it's kind of cool, I think, growing up and then listening back to some of the things that you liked when you were younger, and now you can say, oh, these were the techniques and devices that they were using, or these were the production things that they did. And I think that's our segue into the last little segment I wanted to do with you, man, because the last time you and I spoke, I was telling you that I'm working with a Whirly in a production and I was having some issues with it. And you quickly rattled off like 10 different things. You're like, you can try this, that, what part does it have in the track or whatever. So if we can do a rapid fire thing, I want to list a couple of different instruments or things that would be in a production, and just like first word that comes to mind, whether it's like how you would mic it, what plugins you would use, or whatever thought just comes to mind. Can we do that with a couple of things?
Let's do it.
And I didn't want to get in my own way and kind of forget what I wanted to ask, so I wrote it down.
All right. I like it.
Okay, and again, this is a tribute to what Dave Pensato would do with his guests as well. So
love it.
Yeah, and this is really how I learned about a lot of the stuff that people do in studios.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
All right, so vocal mic.
Mine's usually a Manley Reference Black. I think that works on like 8 out of 10 singers. Or an SM7B. I mean, sometimes that's just it, because singers will hold it when they're singing and they like to walk around that way. But I think about those things, and then the next thing I would think about is preamp, and how important that is in the chain. And and then Yeah, I think then performance. Those are kind of the things that I think about. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Desert Island preamp, vocal preamp.
Neve 1073.
Classic.
Yeah.
Okay, fiddle.
Oh,
First thought that comes to mind.
tuning
Okay.
issues. I think it's so hard to get them in tune and to get, man, there's a couple that are really good in town. But yeah, that's the first thing. I just, I've had a couple in tracks before and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with this? So yeah.
Bass.
Gain staging.
Gain staging. Huh.
Just it's, depending on where you play the note, it's so hard to get an even tone and you really can't achieve it with compression.
Mm-hmm.
You got to kind of go in and gain stage it.
Oh, so you're manually...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, vocal compressor.
It's several. There's several.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually going 1176 into RVox.
Mm-hmm. The waves.
Yeah.
Just classic.
And into probably a LA2A. All these aren't hitting big peaks either.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're on an SM7, then you can. And then I would probably parallel. Yeah, how much I parallel distortion would temper the way that I compress.
Mm-hmm.
So I would find a balance of those two.
Sure. Co-writing.
Let's see. Well, I don't know. It's like blank here. Co-writing. Man, what is the first word that comes to mind there? Let's see. Co-writing. How about... I think... Okay, so for co-writing, I might go right idea, right room, right co-writers.
There you go. Finger-picked acoustic.
Totally depends on the quality of guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
From, making sure that the impact of each note is the same or similar or not. I think just having the ability to put the dynamic in that you need, and then certainly mic placement on finger-picked acoustic. If you mic lower, it's going to be darker. Obviously, we know this. You mic higher, it's going to be brighter. But I think also where you're picking at on the guitar. If you're picking closer down here to the bottom, it's a different sound than if you're picking closer, to the sound hole versus if you're even going to even higher on the neck. So I think, again, that's probably a right player for the right moment of the song kind of thing.
What are your Desert Island stereo mics for a finger-picked acoustic?
Probably AKG 414 or the Soyuz.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that come up recently. Drums.
Samples.
Love it. Electric guitar.
Tom Bukovac.
I have no idea what that means.
That's the guy.
I'm so ignorant. Yeah, who is he?
He's a session player.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom Bukovac or Derek Wells. I mean, there's a lot of great guys. I could name probably 15, but I don't know. Tom starts at cool and ends at cool and is just so good. I mean, I've watched videos on his pedal board, and then bought everything he has. Turns out I still don't sound like him. So, but no, I just got such great feel and touch. And I think Derek is the same way. It's like I'll send him something to work on, and what he sends back, I'm like, my gosh, it's just so freaking good. Yeah,
absolutely. And just as an aside, it always sucks when someone references someone who you don't know.
Yeah.
But way better to be honest about it.
Oh yeah. For sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, actually he plays one of his like ones I see him play a lot is a SG, and it's got the Bigsby on it. And I feel like in country music, that's one thing I love that he does, because you don't see that a lot. But man, you got to go down a rabbit hole.
I will.
Everyone calls him Uncle Larry.
Uncle Larry.
Yeah.
Okay. Auto-tune.
Antares into Vovius or Melodyne. But lately I've been loving Vovius. I think I don't know engineering, but they process the audio somehow differently. And yeah, I've been obsessed with Vovius lately.
Okay.
Brand new one. It's only been out for a couple months.
And is it like a manual tuner, like a Melodyne? Okay.
But it's it's way more intuitive. There's a learning curve if you're really good at Melodyne and used to it. But it just sounds better, faster. You don't get the tuning noise that you
all
get.
The artifacts that come up.
There's just, and Melodyne still is better at some things. Like I don't think you can tune like bass guitars and instruments the same way you can. Like the other day, like I had to use Melodyne for an acoustic guitar part, because there was this, I literally hit like a wrong string in there, and you just went in there and deleted the note, on the polyphonic tuning. Can't do that in Vovius. But man, you can make it sound so natural and so good in Vovius. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
And to go down that rabbit hole just a little further, did you say auto-tune first and then the manual tuner? I've only ever seen it the other way around. So can you explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times they're singing with auto-tune on when we're tracking. So if I have recorded a vocal with the intention of that auto-tune in mind, I want to have that in there before I hand tune. So there's that part of it. And then I also think that you have a little more control. There's many ways to do it. I, for whatever reason, feel like I have a little more control over the artifacts of the tuning when Melodyne's second.
So interesting, man.
Yeah.
I've definitely heard some crazy artifacts when you start format shifting, that it gets kind of monstrous really quickly in a not good way. Maybe Frankenstein is the better word.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the bigger key with all of it is to get a good original recording.
Yeah.
But Melodyne, the other thing is, Melodyne or Vovius timing. I think timing is more important than tuning. Like the fastest way for your song to not sound like a hit is for you not to pocket your vocal. So I don't know.
Yeah. That's one that people sleep on too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They don't realize groove is everything.
And it's the fastest way for your song to not sound professional. You didn't take the time to go time it out. So.
Yeah, write that down, guys. People need to practice with a metronome, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they give you a grid and Melodyne, and you'd be all right. But yeah, no, it is more nuanced. Like there's flavor to that, but gotta pocket it.
Of course, yeah. And then just last question on all that. Kind of like the Christopher Walken on Pulp Fiction carrying the watch. What's your favorite piece of gear ever? If like you lost everything, but I need to keep this piece of gear.
How broad is the scope of this gear? Anything?
Anything.
Probably my PMCs, my monitors. I think it's the most important piece of your studio. You can't make, let me say that, back up. You can figure it out on other monitors that aren't that, maybe not that nice or not that whatever, but if you think about the sound selection that you make and you're not hearing accurately the choices that you're making, that it starts right there. Mm-hmm. You're not even hearing accurately, the quality of recording because the monitors aren't that great. I think it's just, that's why people will spend $100,000 on monitors, because it matters. And, you can do anything with anything, for sure. You can. Mm-hmm. But it makes my life so much easier, to know that what I'm hearing is what it's going to sound like, and, and I have them all set up the right way. And, I had one of my friends, Doug Weir, come over and help me, get the crossover correct and making sure that, we took measurements in my room and got it as close as you can. But yeah, that made such a big difference. It brought me from like my demo sounding like pretty good to like, yeah, this is higher, like just leveled me up again. And I just think it's because it's not just the mixing part of it, it's the sound selection part, which is probably 90 to 95% of most people's problem in production is what they choose to begin with. So that's what I would probably choose.
Amazing answer. Daniel, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye.